What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Good Wolf Project. This is Jerry Scarlato, and I'm here with Cassie Ray. And today we're going to talk about friction. Specifically, we're going to talk about how the results that you want need friction in order for them to happen. So earlier, and by earlier I mean literally 5 minutes ago, Cassie asked me how I came up with this topic. And the idea of friction and results correlating has something that I think about often, but the way that title says it specifically, that your results feed off of friction, comes from a song by a band called 10 Years, which is a band, if you're younger than 36, you've probably heard of 10 Years. Okay. If you're younger than 36.
I'm sure if I heard a song by them, I would know. I don't know the names of songs I heard they're by.
That's fair.
So.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I could tell you a Nirvana song and you'd be like, meh. It's by Nirvana. Oh, yeah, I know the band. Don't know the song. The name of the song, at least.
Yep.
Yeah. Fair. At any rate, the name of the song is Fix Me, but there's a line in the song that goes, I'm fine in the fire and I feed off the friction. So every time I hear that line, I think about, I guess, really, how you don't get results unless you put yourself in the fire and unless you learn to deal with the friction that comes along with it. So I'll ask you, because we were talking before this and she's like, I don't know, what are we talking about? And I was like, I don't know, I have a general idea of how I want this to go, and then I'll ask you some questions. She's like, okay. So you've been either training yourself or training other people for a couple decades. Mm-hmm. Yourself in some capacity since you were probably 10.
Yeah.
Maybe 12, whatever. And other people since probably mid-20s, some give or take?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you see growth in a person, physically, specifically for now, what is the environment of their training?
Okay, you're also applying it, I should apply it to myself as well.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. And by environment, I don't literally, although I could mean that, I don't literally mean physical environment.
Yeah. Like, what are they experiencing?
Yep.
Friction.
Touché.
Yeah, I would say the majority of people, including myself, so I've done Spartan race, I've done half Ironman, I've lifted, I've done a lot of different things. And I think all the reason I do those things is because I like the challenge of it and I have control over how much I'm challenging myself. Now, that's difficult for some people because it's uncomfortable. And usually, like, for example, a great example is when I learned how to swim. Now, I could get to, like, the dock and back at the lake without drowning, but actually, like, learning how to appropriately swim and with technique, I had never really done before. And so obviously to do a triathlon, swimming is the first thing you do. And it's a big chunk of it. It's 1.2 miles of swimming in open water. So I felt maybe technique would be important.
Just leave me behind.
Yeah.
Just leave me behind.
And same with biking too. For as long as I've been working out or being physically active, I never really biked for any sort of technique. Distance. Or swam with any technique. So I took lessons, which in and of itself was a big friction point for me because it's my job to train people. It's my job to make people more physically active, and I've always been physically active. So the fact that I had to take a lesson for something was
here's how to ride a bike.
Bizarre to swim. Me. And I remember the first time I got in the pool, and my coach, who I'd known for years, so she was awesome. Was like, all right, just swim. She wanted to see where I was starting to swim literally from one end of the pool to the other. So not even, I think it was 25. And I was barely made it. I probably looked like, I don't even know what I looked like, but I was huffing and puffing like one lap. I could barely get there. And it's one of those things I'm like, have I even worked out before? Like what, but it's so different. And it took a lot of practice, and I, took the lessons and all that stuff. And man, I was frustrated for a good chunk of it because I just was like, why can't I figure this out? I can usually figure out, be generally athletic in most things, but in the water, it's just a totally different ball game. And I'm sure there's a lot of other things that I would also struggle at. But yeah, I think the same thing when I'm training people, whether they're college athletes or they're just getting into exercise, you're going to hit some sort of friction point, or something's really heavy, or something you can't finish, a set of something. What is your reaction after that is what's going to lead to your results. Because if you're constantly going to the gym or you're constantly training and every time you finish, you're like, not too sore, got through everything pretty good, then you're probably not going to see any results.
Right.
But again, it's finding that balance of what are the results you want to see. Maybe you just want to go to the gym because you said you want to go to the gym. But if you want to actually see results in what you're training for, or your goal for weight loss, or your goal to be a better athlete, you're going to have to hit some sort of friction or some sort of hard thing in order to get better.
So I'll ask you the same question, but in a different context. When you have, and think most recently, when you have grown the most as a person, which I've known you for like 6 or 7 days. Anybody listen to this like, huh? It's a joke, not too much of a joke, so, which is ironic. At any rate, so I've known you for 6 or 7 days. But from what you've told me, from what I understand, as a person, you've grown a lot in those 6 or 7 days.
Yes.
Fast learner.
Yes.
Fast learner.
Get better every day.
Get better every day. At least 25%.
Yes.
Maybe 100, 110% every day. So think in that 6 or 7 months, 8 months, I guess at this point, what has your environment been? Your mental environment and just your overall environment of that growth. How's that been?
Uncomfortable, and I cried a lot.
You cried because it was fun, or you cried because
I cried because it was
insanely uncomfortable?
It was insanely uncomfortable. Yeah, I think using the training as an analogy, I put myself in a lot of positions that were uncomfortable or caused friction in my life, and I have actively, some knowingly, some unknowingly, just avoided it in some regard. And I think that's why I push myself so much in training, because I obviously liked some sort of friction and control and to push myself, and training was my avenue, but I never exposed myself to that sort of friction in any other part of my life. And in relationships, work maybe a little bit, but really just everything else, I just avoided it because it was uncomfortable. Dealing with emotions is extremely uncomfortable, or I just didn't know what I was feeling, so I just avoided it. And, you can get by. Like, I've been pretty successful in my professional career. I've been able to do a lot of different things, but there definitely was a point where I kind of I don't even know what kind of changed the way I saw something, or I just had started feeling a little different about stuff. And yeah, I just started talking to one of my best friends, and that just kind of snowballed into talking about a bunch of different things in my life, which then snowballed into pursuing my passion in strength conditioning, which then snowballed into. So I think it just kind of opened the floodgates at that point. But yeah, I think the friction that I finally faced or have been exposing myself to in other realms of my life has been huge in propelling me into a new purpose and passion in a direction that I think that we've talked about has always kind of been there, but I just kind of avoided it and, went on my merry way. But I think I, again, used training as my outlet for a lot of that stuff. And I think when we think about friction and results, especially with us being in personal training and fitness and health and all this stuff, I think our minds naturally go to that. But this can be really applied to anything.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And so, like, in your training life, like, you've had no problem doing that. That has just been something that you have done. Like you said, like, you're super comfortable pushing yourself to, beyond your limit when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Clearly, with the swimming and with the biking, it was a different kind of, certainly, discomfort and friction and learning that had to take place. It was literally learning something new, a new movement pattern, if you will. So with that, like, that's your area where you feel comfortable pushing yourself. And I would argue that most everybody has an area in their life where they feel comfortable pushing themselves and dealing with friction.
Sure.
And dealing with that discomfort, that mental angst, that mental anguish of just like having to push through something. But it's because they feel competent in it and they feel like they have a level of control in it. Exactly what you said. Like, you're competent in exercise, your body is, you're very athletic, you're strong, you can adapt to things pretty well. And so because of that, like, you're good. Like, it's all good. And then you have these other areas of life where you just kind of like, I'm not going to say go through the motions. Maybe in the relationship area, but that's a whole nother thing. I don't think that it was going through the motions. I think you were trying in, relationships, unless we pay attention that they're not actually what we think they are, then, whatever happens. That's exactly what happened to me. So, but like, even though like in your career, like, you worked your ass off, you did a bunch. We were talking about this morning. Like, you literally sacrificed yourself for everybody you worked with or worked for. Like, you sacrificed yourself for them. So it's not that you didn't work hard. It's not that you didn't push yourself beyond a level of comfort, because you did more than what was expected of you in every single one of the places that you went to. And that was all within a level of understanding of what you knew. Like, you knew all of that.
Yeah.
And when it comes to athletic training, like, that's why it became, athletic training typically was secondary to what you were actually trying to do, which is ironic because you were, quote, an athletic trainer the whole time, but it became a secondary thing. Like, yeah, I do some athletic training, but really I'm building this training facility for this Division III school. That's really what I'm doing. Okay. Anyway, but all of it still was in this, like, in this circle of like what's comfortable to you.
Sure.
Like, you knew all of this. You knew, when it comes to the strength conditioning thing, like, you knew it, you understood it. And then obviously the athletic training, like, you knew it and you understood it. So you worked really hard within all of that, but it was still within a level of comfort. Sure. For sure. Mm-hmm. So, and then whether it was on purpose or not, which maybe a little bit of both, like, once you got to a certain point at a place, you ended up moving to a different place, which is uncomfortable in and of itself. But then, like, you go back to the beginning again, and then you have to build back up. And you've done that so many times that that's comfortable to you.
Yeah.
So what is uncomfortable to you, or what has been uncomfortable to you, is being in one place. This is, people listening to this are like, what is literally being in one place for a long time. And you and I have had many of these conversations, which is why I can say this, but correct me, when I'm saying something that's not right. Being in one place, literally solidifying yourself in a culture, like an area, like knowing that this is the place where I'm going to stay, being there, building relationships, getting close to people, all of that, very uncomfortable. The gym thing, like, you haven't been able to think about it because you're moving from place to place every year. Like we've talked about, am I going to be in the same place next year? I don't know. So why even think about building a gym when I don't even know where I'm going to be.
Yeah.
So you were very comfortable doing all these things that most other people would be very uncomfortable doing. And now it's like you're having to get comfortable doing what most people would call a normal life.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny
saying
now
it
that
out
I'm saying it out
loud.
loud. It's like I got to get comfortable building relationships and getting close to people. Huh. Weird. But I guess the point is, and this is why this is an important topic, an important conversation, is that in society today, we want, and you see this with your athletes, not all of them, but I would say a lot of them, at least from the stories that I hear and from what I've seen with my own two eyes, is we expect things to happen without having to put in the necessary effort to get them. We put in an amount of effort to get them, but it is only amount up until we're comfortable. It's only an amount up until the point where it's like, that feels like enough. But enough is not enough. What is necessary is enough. And those are two very different things. I've learned this a bunch of different ways in my own life. In relationship, for instance, there's a number of different examples I could certainly give how, my previous relationship just wasn't, number one, I could give plenty of examples how I screwed up 1,000 times, but how until I understood that, there were plenty of times, this is going to sound bad, but it is what it is. There were plenty of times where, I wanted to step away and wanted for the relationship to be over because I knew 5 years maybe before we actually separated that it probably wasn't going to work. I probably didn't think about it that way, but it was like, I don't think that this is going the way that I think it's going. But it was like, but we'll see, right? But I'll wait and we'll see. And so I kicked the can down the road and kicked the can down the road. But until it was like, I have to do something and I have to get comfortable, and this is what I'm getting to, it is very uncomfortable going through that conversation and having that conversation with the other person. Yeah. Right? It is very uncomfortable. Lots of mental tension, lots of just friction to a degree that it starts a fire. It is very uncomfortable having that conversation.
Yeah. And
so that's what I was avoiding. And I avoided that for years. And how much time was wasted in that amount of time, how much time was wasted, effort was wasted, potential other things were wasted. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I can't think back about that. But because I knew the result that I wanted. And the result that I wanted was to be in a relationship that the person that I was with, we were aligned in where we were going and how we were going to get there. Generally, not exactly, because you can't be fully aligned with anybody, which is totally fine. Although you and I are pretty freaking close, which is kind of weird. But I knew that's what I wanted, and I had been in this relationship for a decade. So it had been proven at that point that it was not going to be able, that it just wasn't going to be fulfilled. Not that that's right or wrong, not that what I want in life is right or what everybody should want even, but it's not what I wanted. So until literally I caused friction, and this is the same, I'm telling your story basically at the same time. Yeah. So literally until I caused friction, I made friction, which is, again, very uncomfortable. I didn't get the result that I want. So I had to make that. I literally had to create disorder in my life in order to get the thing that I wanted, which is hard to do. Freaking hard to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why we can both look at each other and nod, because we literally did the same thing. And I'm sure probably took you years to really, and maybe you thought about it before. I know we've had these conversations, but it's you think about it and it's okay, I'm not going to think too deeply into it. But then you think a little deeper and it's no, maybe I don't need to think about it. But until that one moment happens, or that period of time happens where it's okay,
Yeah.
I got to, this is it. I got to do it. But that is one of many examples. If you're looking for a specific result, there has to be, you have to create disorder, or you have to create what you call friction, disorder, whatever you want to call it, in order to get the result that you want.
Yeah. As you're giving that example, obviously that's a great example for both of us, but it makes me think about a lot of people that are very successful in their lives or make a lot of money, or that we see out in society like, wow, they're so lucky, or they have a ton of money and all this stuff, and we, at the time that we're seeing them, maybe they're only working, a handful of hours a week, or they're constantly on vacation, or they're doing all this stuff. And we see that and we think, oh, they got it so easy, like they got all this money, whatever, whatever. But I don't think a lot of people think about the work that those people put in and the friction that they caused to get where they got to where they are. I don't know. I just think about like the relationship. They probably caused a lot of friction in relationships as they were trying to grow, we'll just say grow a business, or the time and effort they had to put in outside of, spending time with their family. And that probably caused a lot of friction. And over time, they obviously were motivated enough to get to wherever they are now. Those results of being able to go on vacation and having, enough money to do whatever they want. And I think society just sees the end result, but doesn't realize or give those people credit for all the work and friction that they probably ran into along the way. And I think that just, that's just what we do. We just see somebody and we make a snap judgment on them. But it's the same thing if we see somebody that, maybe isn't dressed great, or they live in, kind of a bad neighborhood or a bad house or something, but you don't know that person's story. Like, they're probably experiencing friction, but they also might be a millionaire. They're just, helping someone rebuild their house or something. So I just think this part of this friction thing is understanding that when we face friction, everybody else is too. And it just probably looks a little different, or might be the exact same situation. But understanding that if we're uncomfortable going through friction, then those people are too. And so I guess what I'm just saying is use other people to help you, because they probably have experienced something of that nature as well. But also understand that when you're with somebody, or meet somebody new and they're coming off a certain way, don't be so quick to judge what they're doing or what they're going through. They might just be going through that uncomfortable friction stage that you're either avoiding, or maybe you went through it too. It just looks a little different. It was kind of a little off topic, but
No, I think that's great. Well, because in a social media world, what do you see in social media? You see everybody in a snapshot, and you see all the good things that are happening. And when you see those things, you assume, again, if you see somebody in a snapshot, like literally you just scroll through somebody or you just meet them and they are, living a life that you are envious of, whatever you want to say, it's easy to make a bunch of assumptions. It's super easy to make a bunch of assumptions, especially if they're younger or whatever, like a mid-40s, 50-year-old, and like Troy's perfect example of that.
Yeah.
So it's easy to make a whole lot of assumptions whenever you see that. You and I are another good example. People look at us and they're like, "Oh, it must be easy for you. Like it's just easy for you to stay fit and to be the way that you are because it's easy. It's just who you are, right?" It's like, no, I've worked my freaking ass off to be able to actually, like, for 30 years. I was 12 years old when I started training. I was in sixth grade or something when I started training. Do not tell me that it has been freaking easy for me to keep this.
Yeah.
For 30 years, almost. For 30 years. It has not been easy for me. There have been plenty of times where I've wanted to quit. There have been plenty of times where I wanted to stop. There have been plenty of times where I'm like, man, I don't really feel like going. This is, but I've had to overcome plenty of mental friction and plenty of physical friction, which is what I'm currently trying to overcome right now. So, you have to learn to use those people or look at a person more in depth than what you see on the surface.
Yeah.
And don't let that deter you, because most people, again, going back to the point of people want results without friction. People want results without work, without having to actually work for it and do something about it, because they see a person in a snapshot and they're like, well, that person didn't have to do anything for it. Well, you have no clue.
Yeah.
You have no clue.
Yeah.
What that person had to do. Like literally, you probably have none.
Yeah.
Even if they do put some amount of pictures on social media or whatever, or videos, you still don't know what's going on in their life the rest of the day,
right.
which is most of the day. It is most of their life. Like you literally have no clue.
Yeah.
So you just can't use that either to deter you, again, oh, well, I'm just not going to try hard because people like that just get things handed to them. Not true. Or to be envious, like, oh, I can't be like this person, that makes me pissed or that makes me angry, which again just is going to cause you to not take action.
Right.
Envy, that's all envy ever does, is cause you to not take action. So you have to learn to look at a person deeper than what they are, and then use that as a guide. Once you learn what they actually have done in order to get what they want, use that as a guide to start to actually do something with it.
Yeah.
To actually take the actions that are necessary.
I mean, Mom was just talking about this. Was that this morning? Yesterday?
Yeah.
When my mom's been working out since 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in the gym in a bassinet, I don't know, bassinet, car seat, whatever. She would bring my brother and me to the gym and just like put us off on the side so she could get a lift in. Like that's the environment that we grew up in, which I think is a big reason that I am the way I am. But my mom literally just said the other day that people look at her and are like, oh, well, I'll never get to. Well, my mom has put 40 years. She's been lifting and training for 40 years, and has gone through plenty of friction, literally bone on bone friction, through injury, and all of her joints have been injured at some point. Like she's crazy, and she still outlifts me, and I think she can do still more pull-ups than me. Like, so she was just saying, like, people look at her and like, oh, well, I'm never, going to get to where you are. And she's like, yeah, probably not tomorrow, but she's also had all of this experience. So I think that's another thing about seeing these people that maybe you're envious of, or you wish, if they're close to you or you know them, ask them for help. And just, I think that's a big thing, is swallowing your pride. A lot of people aren't good at that, or let alone asking for help, because they either think they can do it on their own or they're too embarrassed to ask. But I would say for the most part, if you look at somebody that probably, has been working out for a while or whatever, they at one point were in your shoes. And I'm not saying everybody you talk to is going to be, open and willing to help, but whatever you're looking to do, somebody else has done it. And I think that's something that I kind of forget about too, is, especially with building this business, being nervous about doing it and the process and all of this stuff. But a lot of people have done exactly what I'm looking to do.
A lot of people are a lot less ambitious than you, too.
And successful at it. So I think you just have to, because it's new to me, it is scary and uncomfortable and new things, but it's all possible. I just have to expose myself to little things here and there, and then obviously surround myself with somebody that's started a gym before. So yeah, I think that friction piece, or, going back to seeing people that in society that have, gone through all of this stuff, reach out to them. Like, if you're not able to start yourself or expose yourself to your own friction, which is very, very hard, lean on somebody. Like I said before, when I started kind of feeling a little meh about emotions and feelings and where I was at in my life, I reached out to a friend, and it was for a few months that I just talked to my friend on the phone. She lived in Pennsylvania, Virginia, and sometimes it was like the same conversation once a week for an hour. We were just having the same conversation with different words, but it was that exposure, slow exposure, that started making me think a little bit more and then get more comfortable with emotions and crying and feeling certain ways that I just always avoided. So I think you really can apply that to really anything where you're feeling different things about moving forward. Slow exposure also helps as well. It's not results overnight. Not going to happen with this either. Friction is not going to happen one day and then the next day you're like, wow, that wasn't so bad. Friction is kind of an ongoing thing. And if it's not, then you're probably not moving forward.
Facts. Facts. I would say the last part, well, there's a bunch of things, but recognize that it's going to take that. It's going to, like, whatever it is that you want is going to take friction. Number two, whenever you start whatever you want, I would sit down and I would write a list of what it's actually going to take so that you can set the real expectation for what it's going to take. Because again, when most people start, exercise is just the easiest example, when they start exercising to lose weight or to get in shape, whatever high level arbitrary goal that you want to throw out there, they assume it's going to take 6 weeks and then they can be done. That's it. Or it's just going to take a moderate amount of effort and then I'm going to get all the results that I want. And that's it. And I can stay at that moderate amount of effort. And moderate is still, I would say, stretching for what most people actually put in. So literally sit down and do some research and say, okay, what is it actually going to take in order to achieve the results that I'm looking for? So that you can set that at the real expectation in your mind, the real one, not the fake one, not the one that you want to believe, not the one that your neighbor told you that Sally did, lost all this weight in 6 weeks or 2 days or whatever, like whatever ridiculous story that you've heard, which is all a lie. Like, what is it really going to take? Set the expectation and then decide if you're willing to pay the price of that so that you reduce the actual amount of mental friction that you have to go through. Because there's going to be plenty of friction along the way anyway, so there's no reason in building more walls than you need to. That wall that I'm talking about is, I didn't think that it was going to be this hard. Like, it's going to be that anyway, but don't go into it thinking that it's going to be easy, because it's not. So recognize how hard it's actually going to be. Realize how much effort it's actually going to take. Recognize the price you're really going to have to pay. And you'll actually make your life a little easier, I would say. Because it's going to be freaking hard. Anyway.
Yep.
So, with that said, good. Get out there, get yourself a little friction in your life, and you will not quickly, but you will start, when you start to create friction in your life, physically, mentally, whatever, you will start to see things change. And that's really what we all want in life, is progress. That's why people get frustrated, because they don't have progress. But you don't have progress because you don't have the level of friction that's necessary to make that happen.
Yep. Get some. Up.
Nice. Okay. Get out there, get some friction, get some results. See you guys next time.